Two people, same city, same job, the exact same $84,000 in the bank. One of them buys a house, the other keeps renting, and quietly invests every dollar the buyer pours into that home. 10 years later, one of them is clearly ahead, and it is almost never the one you would bet on. Here is the strange part. Both of them feel like they made the obvious, responsible choice. And almost everyone watching has already picked a side before seeing a single number. So, this video is not going to pick a side for you. It is just going to run every number, honestly. The ones the agent skips, and the ones the renter pretends do not exist. If you want money decisions broken down with the actual math and no agenda, this is the channel for that. Now let me introduce the two people, because their choice is about to teach us everything. Ethan buys. The house costs $420,000. He puts 20% down, which works out to $84,000, and finances the rest over a 30-year mortgage at roughly 7%. His monthly payment lands around $2,230. The day he gets the keys, he feels like he finally won, and on paper, he has started building equity. Maya rents the same kind of place for about $1,950 a month. She takes the $84,000 she did not put down and invests it in a simple low-cost index fund. Then, every single month, she invests the difference between Ethan's true cost of owning and her rent. No house, no keys, no pride. Just a quiet, automatic transfer. Now here is where the fantasy meets the spreadsheet. Ethan's real cost is not just the mortgage. There is property tax, roughly $4,600 a year. Homeowner's insurance, around $1,800. Maintenance, and this is the one everybody forgets, runs about 1% of the home value every year, so another $4,200. Plus the $12,000 in closing costs he paid just to walk through the door. None of that money builds a single dollar of equity. It just keeps the house standing. So while his mortgage statement makes him feel wealthy, a big slice of what he pays every month quietly disappears, exactly the way rent does. It is simply rent he is paying to the bank, the city, and the roof above his head. And the early years are rougher than the brochure admits. In the beginning, almost every mortgage payment goes to interest, not principal. So by year 3, Ethan has barely dented what he owes. If he had to sell right then, the realtor commission and selling costs, around 6% of the price, would wipe out most of the equity he thought he had. Buying punishes you for leaving early. But here is what Ethan has that Maya does not: leverage and appreciation. He controls a $420,000 asset with only $84,000 down. If that house climbs 3% a year, he earns that gain on the whole $420,000, not just on his deposit. Over 10 years, in a normal market, his home might be worth around $560,000, and his equity could sit somewhere between $180,000 and $220,000. Of course, that leverage is not free. Over the full loan, Ethan will hand the bank well over $300,000 in interest alone, more than half the price of the house, just for the privilege of borrowing. Appreciation gives, and interest quietly takes. Both are real, and most people only ever count the one that flatters their decision. And here is the lever that quietly matters more than almost anything else: the interest rate itself. At 3%, buying looks brilliant, and the math leans hard toward owning a home. But at 7%, that same house quietly costs Ethan tens of thousands more in interest over just a few years. And the renter who invests the difference stays ahead for far longer. Same house, same buyer, same city. Change nothing but the rate on the loan, and the entire answer can quietly flip from one side to the other. Now let me be just as honest about Maya. Her rent does not stay frozen. It creeps up a few percent every year, and that genuinely stings. She gets no leverage, no mortgage paying itself down, no place she can truly call hers. Her entire advantage rests on one fragile thing: discipline. She has to actually invest that difference every month and never quietly spend it. But if she does, the math is quietly brutal. Her original $84,000, growing at about 10% a year, becomes roughly $218,000 in 10 years, all on its own. Add the monthly difference she keeps investing, and her portfolio can land somewhere between $260,000 and $300,000. Liquid, spendable on a Tuesday. No roof to ever replace. Quick, honest note before the comparison. None of this is financial advice. It is just the math laid out in the open. Your city, your rates, and your rent are all your own. Now, back to the numbers, because this is where most people get the answer exactly backwards. Let me show you the scoreboard at a few checkpoints, because the order really matters here. At year 3, Ethan is underwater. His selling costs alone would erase the small gains he has, while Maya is already quietly up. At year 5, the two of them are roughly even, the buyer finally catching up. By year 7, the lines cross, and from there, Ethan inches ahead for good. The renter wins the sprint. The owner wins the marathon. Which one you are depends entirely on how long you stay. So at year 10, Ethan has maybe $180,000 to $220,000 in equity, locked inside a house he has to sell or borrow against to ever touch. Maya has $260,000 to $300,000 she can spend tomorrow. On paper, the renter who invested looks like the clear winner. But the answer is not that simple. And here is the one variable that flips the entire thing. Time. How long you stay. Buying is brutal in the early years because of those closing costs and front-loaded interest. But the longer Ethan stays, the more that early pain fades, the more his loan shrinks, and the more appreciation compounds on the full house. There is a break-even point, usually somewhere around year 6 or 7, where owning finally pulls in front of renting. And after that point, the gap only widens in Ethan's favor. Stay 25 or 30 years, and something powerful happens. The mortgage gets paid off completely, and his monthly housing cost collapses to almost nothing, just taxes and upkeep. Meanwhile, Maya is still paying rent, and that rent has been climbing the entire time. In the long run, the paid-off house quietly becomes the cheapest housing in town. And there is one more thing the math does not capture. A house is forced savings. Most people will never invest the difference the disciplined way Maya does. They will spend it. For them, the boring monthly mortgage is the only reason they ever build any wealth at all. Owning also buys something no spreadsheet has a cell for. The feeling that the place is yours, that nobody can ever ask you to leave. So who actually wins? If you are disciplined, and you might move within 5 to 7 years, renting and investing the difference usually wins. And it is not even close. If you will stay put for decades, or you know yourself well enough to admit you would just spend the difference, buying usually wins. The house was never the answer. The honest answer is the one that includes every number, even the boring ones. So before you let anyone tell you that renting is throwing money away, or that buying is always the smarter move, sit down and run your own real numbers, all of them. Tell me in the comments, are you team buy, team rent, or somewhere in between? and how long you actually plan to stay. I read every single one. And if you want the next breakdown, the one on whether to pay off your mortgage early, it is waiting for you right now.